You might not believe it at first, but the Bible isn't just a spiritual book for personal growth. It's also a practical manual for handling money and achieving the abundant life God promised. Have you ever wondered why you work so hard and money never seems to be enough? Have you felt the weight of debt stealing your peace, as if there's no way out? I know exactly how that feels because I've been there. I reached a point where I prayed, gave my best effort, yet nothing changed. It was in that bottomless pit that I discovered, through reading the Bible, keys of wisdom that not only freed me from debt, but also opened doors to prosperity I never imagined possible. What I'm about to share with you is not theory, it's real experience. If you're currently trapped in financial struggles, stay with me until the end, because every key I reveal has the power to transform your life. These principles are found in Proverbs, Psalms, and the stories of men like Solomon and Abraham. No matter your age or current situation, God has a plan, and that plan begins with wisdom. First key, financial wisdom. Many people pray for money, but forget to ask for wisdom. Proverbs 4 verse 7 says, "Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom." When I stopped looking for shortcuts and started studying what God really says about finances, my mind changed. And when the mind changes, life changes too. I realized that Solomon wasn't wealthy by accident, but because he used wisdom to organize, decide, and act with clarity. When I began applying biblical teachings, not just memorizing verses, everything started to align. If you're in debt, what you need most isn't just money, it's the wisdom to avoid ending up in the same place again. Second key, spiritual order. Many desire a financial miracle, but continue living in chaos. God does not bless disorder. He is a God of order. Proverbs 27 verse 23 teaches us to know well the state of our finances. That means knowing how much you earn, how much you spend, and how much you owe. When I put everything on paper, I felt peace. I didn't have more money yet, but I had direction. Organization is not a lack of faith, it's a spiritual practice. God doesn't multiply what you ignore. Start this week by writing down your expenses and asking Him for guidance. Miracles happen where there's space, and your effort to organize paves the way for blessing. Third key, active obedience. One of the biggest turning points in my financial life wasn't just planning, it was obeying. There were times God asked me to give, forgive, or make decisions that seemed illogical. Yet every act of obedience opened doors that had been closed for years. Proverbs 3 verse 6 says, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." Often, what's missing isn't more income but aligning your heart with God. Active obedience unlocks the supernatural. Fourth key, intentional spending. One of my mistakes was treating money as the enemy and spending without thought, until I realized it's not about how much you have, but how you use what you have. Proverbs 21 verse 20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." The wise don't spend impulsively, they spend with purpose. When I started reviewing my expenses consciously, I realized how much I was wasting. Money can be a seed or a runaway, it's your choice. Today, I prioritize what builds rather than what only entertains. When we entrust our finances to God, He gives us discernment to turn spending into investments that edify. Write in the comments faith-filled phrases that strengthen your heart, like "I am ready to receive divine wisdom." "Today I begin organizing my finances," or "My money has purpose and divine direction." These words activate faith and create space for God to move. Fifth key, sowing with courage. This was one of the toughest lessons, but also one of the most powerful I've ever learned. Sowing when you're in debt may seem crazy, but that's exactly when faith speaks the loudest. Proverbs 11 verse 25 says, "A generous person will prosper." God doesn't ask you to give what you don't have, but to be generous even with little. This could be your time, a word of encouragement, a gesture of love, or even financial resources when He moves your heart. I planted seeds in my most difficult moments, and they opened doors that years of effort couldn't. It's not about giving out of obligation, but sowing with purpose in fertile ground. Every word of faith, every shared meal, every timely act of help has eternal value. Write in the comments, "Even if it costs me, I sow with faith." This declaration activates heaven because it shows your willingness, and God honors those who give joyfully. If today you feel like you're sowing but haven't seen results yet, don't give up. The harvest is coming. The Lord owes no one anything, and He sees everything you do, even in secret. Guard your seed with prayer and perseverance, because your testimony is being built. Sixth key, new direction. One of the greatest revelations I received was this: you don't need a quick way out, you need a new direction. Proverbs 14 verse 12 tells us, "There is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death." I wanted immediate solutions, but I kept falling into the same mistakes. Only when I decided to change my course, my choices, my environment, and even my friendships, did I start climbing out of the financial hole. God doesn't always remove us from crisis immediately, but He always shows a new path. And when you walk in the direction of His purpose, even debts lose their power. Often, it's not the amount you owe that traps you, but the mindset you carry. That's why every decision matters, every expense, every word, every investment. Write in the comments, "Today I change my direction under God's guidance." This simple statement can mark a fresh start. Seventh key, renewed mind. This principle changed everything for me. True prosperity doesn't start with more money. It starts with a renewed mind. Romans 12 verse 2 calls us not to conform to this world, but to be transformed by the renewal of our minds. I wanted to increase my income, but I still thought like someone trapped in scarcity. When I began changing my thoughts, my results began to change too. The scarcity mindset says, "I can't, I don't have, this isn't for me." The kingdom mindset says, "With God, everything is possible." This new way of thinking helped me get out of debt step by step. If you're ready to renew your mind, start with what you say, what you watch, what you read, and the people you surround yourself with. The mind is like soil. If you plant words of faith, you will harvest transformation. Write in the comments, "My mind is aligned with the kingdom of God." This declaration could be the beginning of your breakthrough. Eighth key, daily habits. I didn't get out of debt by luck or an unexpected gain. I got out because I developed discipline. Proverbs 13 verse 11 says, "Whoever gathers little by little will increase it." This little by little is called habit. And habits are small repeated decisions that, over time, change the entire story. I started by tracking every expense, praying before purchases, reading a proverb in the morning, and declaring verses about provision. Gradually, these habits changed my relationship with money. I stopped being afraid, stopped spending impulsively, and learned to manage intentionally. Discipline is faith in action. The problem for many people isn't a lack of faith, it's a lack of consistency. And consistency is what opens the doors to multiplication. Make your morning sacred: Bible, prayer, and goal review. This changes your day and transforms your financial life. Write in the comments, "My habits reflect my faith." Decide today which habit you will start and take that step. Ninth key, right alliances. Many people can't break free from debt because they're surrounded by the wrong people. Proverbs 13 verse 20 says, "Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm." Your connections directly influence your future. The relationships you have directly influence your financial life, your way of thinking, and even your faith. Not every friend strengthens you, and not every voice guides you on the right path, and this is also part of the process of prospering. When I started surrounding myself with people who had purpose, vision, and faith, everything began to change. These people encouraged me, corrected me, and challenged me to grow. I stopped spending to impress and started investing to evolve. A good alliance is worth more than a good salary. God never called us to walk alone. Even Jesus had disciples, companions, and helpers. Abraham had strategic alliances, and Solomon built surrounded by the wise. Prosperity is never an individual journey. You need connections that propel your destiny. If today you feel like you're walking alone, write in the comments, "God connects me with people who lift me up." This is your prayer, your activation of faith. If you want, also share your city or country so we can pray for divine connections. 10th key, eternal purpose. One of the greatest dangers is confusing prosperity with accumulating things. The Bible teaches us something entirely different. Proverbs 11 verse 28 says, "Whoever trusts in their riches will fall." The purpose is not to hoard out of fear, but to advance, build, invest, and bless others. To prosper is to have direction, not just resources. I've met people full of money but without peace. And I've also met simple people with purpose, and God's favor surrounded their lives. I learned that true wealth is living the purpose God created us for, and using what we have to glorify Him. Do not be afraid to grow, to start ventures, to achieve, but never lose your center. If money becomes your God, everything collapses. But if God is the center of your finances, provision will be firm, stable, and full of peace. Prosperity without purpose is vanity. I want you to write in the comments, "My prosperity serves an eternal purpose." This declaration is your connection to heaven. If you wish, also share your calling, your dream, your vision. Now you know the 10 keys that transformed my life and can transform yours as well. Remember, it's not luck, it's not coincidence. It's wisdom, faith, and action. God doesn't want you trapped in debt, anxiety, or scarcity. He wants you to prosper with purpose, so your finances bless both you and others, and so your life becomes a testimony of His power. Rise up, take action, and believe. Your financial freedom, your peace, and your eternal purpose are within reach. God has already prepared everything, but He needs you to do your part. This is the moment to start your new season. Move forward, because the best is yet to come.